is concern about the number of students using their NSFAS funds for gambling. According to the Daily Maverick, the habit has led to distress outcomes for some students. Most of the gambling activities take place on digital platforms. Joining us now to unpack this further is Siyabonga Goni, Daily Maverick education reporter. Siyabonga, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. There is, of course, what you have uncovered as you've done your research. There's what NSFAS is saying, and maybe somebody else might say there is then what is really happening on the ground. But I'm interested in what you have found out about how widespread is this phenomenon of students misusing their NSFAS allowances.
Oh, good morning, Thabo, and good morning to also the viewers. So yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, also there is a lot of students within the higher education sphere that are gambling. So in terms of this, what we tried to focus on was actually looking at how this actually affects students and also how addicted are they when it comes to gambling. So we then went out to speak to students. So I spoke to students from the Walter Sisulu University. I spoke to students from UJ, which is the University of Johannesburg, where they actually were sharing to me that the NSFAS money would actually come in when the year starts, which is known as the book allowance, and there's also a normal allowance or food allowance that tends to come in around March or February. So what they shared is that this allowance would come in and they would take a sum of that money and place it on these gambling games online, which is Betway, Hollywood Bets, and within those sites they would use some different games such as aviator games, live horses games and stuff like that, and they would actually lose some of their money and go on to borrow more money from other students within their residences, meaning that they get into debt. In some cases, they can't even afford them to go and buy groceries. Even if they get a little money that they do have, they still, again, have that hope that they will bet again and that money might come back to them. So it's really huge within the higher education sector, the fact that students are using the NSFAS money to actually gamble with it.
Those who do, Siyabonga, are they aware that they are in contravention of the terms of the NSFAS funding agreement?
No, I don't think they are aware of that. And also when we spoke to NSFAS had also shared that they haven't, actually received any form of complaints directly indicating the widespread of misuse of NSFAS funds. However, they said that they will continue to monitor and review, this process. But when it comes to students, they didn't know that, as you say, also that there were maybe, controversial or stuff like that, because for them, one said that they're in pursuit of a soft life. They keep seeing people winning and they also want to win. So it was that sort of case.
So I'm interested in what NSFAS says. I mean, they of course leave the responsibility to the students to manage their money. So the institution NSFAS does not really collaborate with the institution of the university or the students themselves in how the money is managed. So more than likely, they wouldn't be able to pick that up, would they?
Yeah. I mean, look, what they also shared is that, their funding policy stipulates that the allowances are intended to solely be used for educational or living expenses, so while there are no, and I'm quoting, while there are no, specific clauses explicitly, addressing gambling or the misuse of money, in terms of the NSFAS funding agreement which students are signed up for. But for them, they don't know that this is actually happening with students. It came across as if they don't know that students are actually using this money to get on gambling and all that sort of stuff. So so there is a room for then students, if there are no policies in place to sort of address this, there is then, that gap for students to keep on betting, to keep on, using their money for Betway or Hollywood Bets.
Yeah. Now, in addressing this question, of course, you've also had a look at what the gambling board and other players have been reporting, that, well, the use particularly of influencers by these online betting platforms has given rise to this behavior. Did you find that there is some correlation, there's a relationship between the use of influencers and students getting hooked on these platforms?
I mean, look, we spoke to a clinical psychologist to sort of verify this sort of stuff, and we spoke to Dr. Kitumedzi Mashego, who sort of said that, when it comes to gambling and how the use of influencers, as like major people, I mean, we've seen some brand ambassadors such as Simpiwe Chabalala, people like UFC champion, our former champion, Dricus Duplessis. We've seen also in Hollywood Bets, being used. So, what Dr. Mashego then had said is that the use of influencers, as the face of betting in some cases, keeps people getting into gambling. The fact that I also mentioned that the students was saying that they keep seeing people, so this is sort of then another issue. And as you do mention, the National Gambling Board, when I spoke to them, also said that, the use of social media influencers and public personalities to sort of promote online or inactive gambling products is inconsistent with, the principles of responsible gambling, particularly where such promotions may reach minors or encourage, excessive participation when it comes to gambling. So what they're now trying to do is to raise more awareness and fight for or to promote regulations when it comes to the use of influencers, but also keeping in mind that these are people's jobs at the same time. But that's what they're trying to do also.
So what measures are they taking, as you mentioned there, in terms of education? How does it really happen? I mean, do they just put a disclaimer at the end?
Yeah. So when I spoke to the CEO of the National Gambling Board, Mr. Duko, what he said in terms of measures that are used, he says that there are face-to-face education campaigns that are actually conducted through communities, information sessions in different town halls, or they're hosting imbizos within tertiary institution visits. So just to sort of drive the awareness of gambling and how the use of influencers happen and all that stuff. So that's what they're trying to do now to sort of promote awareness about these issues.
So as far as NSFAS is concerned, I mean, do you get a sense that they're saying we are adopting a watch and wait and watch approach where we'll wait until somebody comes and reports, or are they going to be proactive in their investigation of this matter?
So what they also said, which was the spokesperson, Mr. Mnisi, what he said is that NSFAS is focused on financial literacy, whereas they're trying to raise awareness campaigns and collaborate with institutions to sort of help students manage money responsibly. But for me, what I pick up, the fact that they don't know that or haven't received any formal complaints about the widespread of NSFAS money being used for gambling and all and that sort of stuff. For me, it came across as if there aren't measures to sort of monitor how people are using money of students.
Siyabonga, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for your intervention.